Thank you for joining Jennifer Shelton and Associates in our 2019 Webinar Wednesday series. We are coming to you live from downtown Washington, D.C. Our webinars are every Wednesday, and you can find the upcoming schedule on our website. Past webinars and all recordings are also on our website and on our YouTube channel, along with over 160 other recordings on federal contracting topics. All are complimentary. If you have questions for our speaker today, you can contact him directly with the contact information you'll see on our last slide. Right, just a little bit about us. We are a Washington, D.C. based firm and provide services for federal contractors. This ranges from market analysis reports to proposal writing and also post-award compliance. More information is on our website, so please visit us there. We have a few upcoming events that you can find more information here, also on our website. And we do offer advertising, so you can email me if you would like more information on that. And our webinar today is sponsored by AccuTrack, and here's a short message from them.
AccuTrack Consulting and Accounting Services is an 8A WOSB CPA firm committed to supporting entities sustain growth in government contracting. Our outstanding DCAA accounting solutions reduce audit risk, improve cash flows, and give you peace of mind. Contact us today to learn how we can enhance your DCAA accounting efforts.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Our speaker today is Skip Blackburn, and he's going to be covering 7 steps for successful Black Hat reviews. Skip, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today. We're going to be at a very high level, but I'm going to review the 7 best steps to making sure your Black Hat is successful. There's many, many things involved with that, but we'll run through those. So go ahead and advance one, please. So just a quick overview of what we're going to be taking a look at. I'm not going to read each one, but we'll get into each line of this to make sure that you have a good list to make sure you're successful in your process. So let's go ahead and advance. So the first one, I'd like to just talk about understanding the requirements. There's a lot of folks who become in charge of a Black Hat process and are involved in them, but they really don't take the time to read the RFP and become an expert on what the government's looking for in the process. The worst Black Hat experiences are when people arrive unprepared. And you have, 8, 10, 15, 20 people involved in a Black Hat process, all at higher levels generally in the company, and there's very expensive and time-consuming process. So people that aren't ready, aren't prepared, really hold up the entire group. So it's really important to make sure everybody pre-reads the RFP, any drafts, any information that you have to supply to them prior so that they're up to date. If individuals don't have the time to prep, you need to make sure that they know that they cannot be part of the process because it's just going to hurt their time and hurt the overall. And as a leader of a Black Hat, that person has to definitely be on top of the entire process to answer all questions and to give guidance moving forward. Getting background information is really important in the prep work before the Black Hat process begins, that the leader makes sure that they have all the information available for all the participants. So everybody on each company team, should read the bio and the background that's provided by the Black Hat leader. Everybody has to understand the deal parameters, what kind of deal it is, what kind of contract vehicle, who the customer is, what they're looking for, so they understand the RFP information, and they have to understand the company issues that they're representing during the Black Hat. So it's really important to get all that information pulled together prior to actually running the Black Hat process. Okay, so I think we can move to the next slide, please. So capture information again, we collected information about the RFP. We collected information about the opportunity itself and the companies that we want represented. In addition to that, really need to the leader needs to spend a lot of time with the capture executive and gather all the appropriate G2, all the information that they've collected about this particular opportunity so that it can clearly be discussed during the introductions and everybody knows the same information, because you have to assume that the companies that you're ghosting or presenting during the black hat process have also visited the customer, gathered G2, and knows in general the same types of information that your capture executive and their team have collected. So it's really important to gather that information and make sure it's presented properly. Inclusive of that is the customer issues, to make certain that the capture executive during the briefing to the team explains all the customer issues and challenges that they have. Again, assuming that the other companies have gathered the same type of information and have that same insight. So you have to make sure your entire team is on equal footing in that regard. And then, for the customers themselves, is budget the driver of their selection process, or is fear the driver, right? I mean, there's different hot buttons, issues, and challenges that each customer presents when you're shaping a deal as a capture executive. And that information has to be brought to the forefront while you're introducing the customer issues and the shaping process to the group prior to them separating out. Okay, so we can advance one, please. So key to, information is really important. So it's really important that you have all the right information provided for the team. The key is you have to have the right people as part of the overall process. It's great to have people with 25 years experience, people that have been through other black hats before. Those are nice to haves. But you really need to find people where they have an intimate knowledge of each of the companies that you're presenting for during the black hat process. Most black hats fail because the team that was assembled, who was available, who had time to do this, weren't the right people. And so the end result isn't what everybody had hoped for. You really need to find folks that had worked at this company within the last 3 years, understands this particular, which division, department, or BU is likely to be bidding, because lots of different, in the larger companies, lots of different business units have different philosophical processes for how they bid, how they price different types of deals. So it's really important to be able to find the right folks. If you can't find people who had worked for the companies before within your own company, then you really ought to reach out to consultants and hire some consultants who have worked at or with companies that you're black hatting, and make sure that they bring that knowledge and value to the table. You can't ask folks, whether they work for your company or not, to break trust in non-disclosure agreements or things like that. But certainly they can give opinions on how the thinking was done and take some of the guesswork out of that process. Okay, so we can move forward to the next slide, please. So one of the keys for overall black hat processes is to create a repeatable process. So once you've done a couple of black hats, it's important that you have built templates that can then be reused on future Black Hat processes and reviews, so that you get a repeatable process, so that you have a better measuring and grading stick when they're all produced and managed the same way. So the leader should bring to the table templates they've used before, or should, if you're doing it for the first time, create templates that you can then share those templates with the group. And as they break out in their sessions, they could put their notes and information into the templates and then present those to each group when the process is done. So it's really important to build out those templates and manage that. And again, it's for grading each Black Hat process using the same metrics and having result driven, the outbound of these meetings and these processes have the same format and repeatability, so that everybody all the way up through the executive management team gets the value out of the Black Hat process. And, again, hiring an expert, if you don't have people at your company who have led Black Hats, you really should begin your learning process by bringing in experts that have done and led Black Hats, and they're going to be invaluable to managing and running the process and making sure everybody's time and budgets are taken care of and in consideration, and all the previous ones that they've done before gives them a lot of guidance that they can give to the current team in how to execute, how to think, how to run these. And finally, they generally bring to the table templates that have already been proven in their past processes that will be beneficial to your company going forward. Okay, so let's move forward again. One more slide. Thank you. Participation is, always a tricky part. We have to recognize that everybody's working no longer 40 hours a week. They're all working 60 hours a week on things that have, high priorities on their list from their leadership and their perspective. And here you're asking them to take a couple days out of their calendar and participate in this all-involved process. So the leader needs to make sure that they're constantly managing the process that's underway. So as the Black Hat process breaks into teams for each company, and those teams get together and work through their process, it's important that the leaders of the Black Hat visit with each group several times to make sure they're not stuck on any item or not sure how to update information appropriately, or they're heading down the wrong path in their discussion, that they're not going to come back with the expected understanding or outcome. So it's really important to be involved in these groups. You don't just send them away and hope they come back with a good answer. And that's all about keeping everybody focused. So, when you separate a group out and they're going to become a company that you're competing with, those people need to be that company. They need to think like that company. They need to think about what the government thinks of their company that they're working on, and what they think the government thinks of our company. Because all that makes a difference in perception of how you're going to continue to shape a deal with the government. They need to work on what their differentiators are, what their win themes and ghost themes would be, so that we gather that information at the end. And how are they shaping the deal? Again, from that customer's perspective, how would they perceive that they would be in differentiating themselves from the competition and driving win and ghost themes through that process? And that way we can look at how we're shaping the deal in that process against how they are. And finally, it's important that they think about pricing, because it's key in how each company prices differently. Some companies are confident and can reduce their price. Others are concerned and they raise their price. And it's really important to know the difference between those during that process from each different company's perspective. So we can advance again, thank you. So expectations and outcomes. Each different company, each different group that separates is going to update their templates and then come back and be ready to present to the group. The presentation's really vital. You can't just have one person just read back on the slides and say that's what we did. Everybody has to participate and define their thinking. Why did you make this decision that the company you're representing believes they would lower their price 20% to win this deal? You can't just say they're going to do it. You have to have justification. And again, you're not that company and you haven't been in that company for 3 years. Thinking may have changed, but the whole objective is to be that company and come up with a solid reason and process for why you do things and what decisions you'd be making if you were them. It's, again, vital for executives to be part of this process, because they're making the go, no go, bid, no bid decisions and on spending B&P type monies to move forward. So it's really important for them to understand how each team feels that they would bid against and what they might price and how they might influence or shape the government thinking, so that all that emotional information is helpful for the executives to determine whether they continue to bid against these competitors or whether they feel like they can't win for whatever reasons came out of the black hat process. And finally, an understanding of the thinking. Again, it drives all of this information and input, drives your compelling response, price to win process, and the bid no bid process. So it's all this information that's gathered and brought forward and discussed in the final presentation process is all about making sure that you and your company can be prepared and move forward during the response process, the pricing process, and as always, the bid no bid continuation process. Okay, we can move ahead to almost the last slide. So again, the final results are really quite important. Capture managers take the information that they gather from these sessions, and it helps them reshape and refine their win themes in their process. And it also helps them refine their ghost themes as to why these other companies believe they can win. And then you develop ghost themes on things that you believe that they're weak with, and you exploit those with the government. Again, the compelling response is the huge differentiator when the government reads all these responses they get. The companies that win more bids generally, well, outside of having the lowest price, which we all know is the most reality, is what they read and how compelling your arguments and discussions are in your response. Pricing teams, again, this is a huge starting point for the pricing team to create the price to win model and to drive that forward. And they'll do that with the competitors that are black hatted, so that they can drive the model for the expected pricing based on the outbound of this process. So it's really important that everybody talks about competitive pricing experience during the black hat process. And then management ends up with that stronger sense of bid, no bid, and whether they're willing to spend those large B&P dollars to continue to move forward with a response. Okay, so we got one more slide. You can move forward to that, please. So best suggestions, I just wanted to leave you with, best thoughts. If you don't have highly experienced black hat leaders who have done this many times, you really should reach out and hire a consultant with that expertise to lead you through the first couple black hats that you do until you get the experience doing that process and the outcome from the response. The hardest one is this: dedicate the internal folks' time. Again, everybody's working 60 hours a week. You're asking billable people to stop billing and come in and work. You're asking executives to stop their meetings and come in for full day debriefs. Very difficult process, but it's vital to do. So you've got to lock down people's time and get them to focus. You really need to ban cell phones and company email during the black hat process, because everybody gets easily distracted with all the work that still needs to be done while they're working on your process. So it's really important to dedicate their time. And the final piece is, you got to learn from each process. So it's vital that each black hat that you participate in, you learn how to lead, how to be part of the team, and how to think about competitive situations so that you can get the best value you can out of the overall black hat process, because it is time consuming and expensive to manage. So you really want to make sure you got superior value coming out of it. So that's all I have for today. Just a high level review of a good black hat process. Hope this helped everybody think through how they want to do black hats in the future. So that concludes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Skip, for sharing your knowledge and insight today. Today's presentation has been recorded and can be found on our website or YouTube channel within about 48 hours. If you have questions about today's topic, please contact Skip at the phone number or email shown on your screen. Thank you, everybody. This concludes the webinar.